One of Donald Trump's most famous lines, he's been using it continuously since he began campaigning, was enemy of the people. The media is the enemy of the people. The Washington Post is the enemy of the people. NBC, ABC, enemy of the people, enemy of the people, that. And I have to say, full disclosure, I never liked it. I never liked it. It's not because I was like, oh, it hurts my feelings. I just thought, it's probably too far, right? I mean, it's probably maybe not the best thing. He's 100% right. He's 100% right. I was slightly moving towards his direction in recent months, especially since I've seen this coverage after we killed known terrorist Qasem Soleimani, and I've seen the Iran coverage from our national media. I've seen what the National Democratic Party is saying. Ladies and gentlemen, what am I supposed to say? Should I tell you half-truths? Should I tell you lies just to make you feel better? Should I say, well, I mean, they're not really the enemy of the people. It's just another way of looking at things. What? Look, you either love the United States of America, you're either with the United States of America and against our enemies, or you're not. It's really not more complicated than that. You can be against American interventionist foreign policy. I am. I hate it. You can be against going to war with Iran. I am. I hate the thought of getting bogged down in yet another dump that we stay in for another 20 years. I hate it. That's fine. That's an honest conversation about American foreign policy. But what you cannot do is have somebody, a known terrorist, not just in Iraq and Iran, all around the Middle East, somebody responsible for killing, I don't know how many people, and we know for a fact, killing American soldiers. I read you the tweet the other night. Actually, it was a message from my friend who lost limbs in Iraq the night Soleimani was killed, saying, he's the one who did this to me. This is the best Christmas present ever. I'm glad he's dead. This guy killed and maimed our troops. And Iran strings up gay people by the dozen just for being gay. Iran is the host, or I shouldn't say host. Iran is, frankly, one of the worst human rights abusers in the world. Them and North Korea are constantly in the top 5. And yet we have Qasem Soleimani dead, and we have the United States media all flocking to Tehran like it's half-price week at Cancun. Here's Richard Engel talking lovingly about him.
This was something that the United States, many in the U.S. military, have wanted to do for a very long time. They had an old score to settle with Qasem Soleimani. You talk about how he killed hundreds of Americans. He killed hundreds of American troops who were fighting a war here in Iraq that Iran felt very threatened by. Iran wouldn't call that terrorism. Iran would say, that's what generals do in war. They kill their enemies. And there were many in the Pentagon who wanted vengeance for that. They wanted to take him out, so to speak. And now you're hearing President Trump talking about how successful he was and talking about Qasem Soleimani in the same breath as the al-Qaeda leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. They, while both have killed Americans, they're not alike at all. Al-Baghdadi led a terrorist group that carried out attacks in nightclubs in Europe, that beheaded hostages, that tortured hostages. Qasem Soleimani was an official representative of the Iranian government that led a policy to try and expand Iranian influence around the world.
What? Setting aside the fact that that's obviously a lefty reporter, that's an American citizen. Wow, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was just, look, that's what generals do. Qasem Soleimani had a policy where he would advance IEDs, blow them up, and then he'd wait for emergency personnel to come rescue everybody who was injured, and he'd blow up those IEDs too. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a terrorist. Now, again, if you can just say, well, he's just an opposing general, but he's an opposing general. He's opposing the United States of America. Oh, but Richard Engel wasn't wrong. His little heart was pitter-pattering when he talked about the martyr.
Now, after this killing, you saw people not only going out in the streets in millions, as Ali was describing, he was there, but throwing articles of their own clothing up onto the coffin so that attendants could rub it on the coffin so that they would have some sort of memento of an object that was close to Qasem Soleimani's body. They turned him into a martyr, if not a saint.
a saint. Ladies and gentlemen, as soon as the show's over tonight, because this is a family show and it always will be, I'm always going to do a show that you can watch with your children. Go ahead and look up some of the things that go on inside of Iran. Go ahead and look up some of the things that Iran has done abroad to people, the horrendous things they do to people. Qasem Soleimani was the architect behind lots of that. This man was a monster. Richard Engel, he thinks he's a saint. But, I don't want to just pick on Richard. Look, I have 1,000,001 examples. This show could be 5 hours long tonight. Here's Martha Raddatz in full headgear in Tehran.
I have been in the midst of anti-American protests in Iran before, but nothing like this. A powerful combination of grief and anger with shouts of death to America echoing through the streets around us.
A powerful combination. Ladies and gentlemen, do either of those two people look to you like people who are American citizens, who are people who are pulling for America? Do they? Honestly, you tell me. Oh, by the way, it's not just the media. We have major Democrat presidential candidates. Elizabeth Warren's currently tied for the lead in her primary, and according to the latest polling in Iowa, and this is what she says.
Next week, the President of the United States could be facing an impeachment trial in the Senate. We know he's deeply upset about that. And I think people are reasonably asking, why this moment? Why does he pick now to take this highly inflammatory, highly dangerous action that moves us closer to war?
Impeachment? Highly dangerous action? It was highly dangerous for the loser who got blown up with the Hellfire. Oh, Elizabeth Warren wasn't done. Was he really a terrorist? I can't tell.
Response, and going back to Cody's question, at an appropriate time. He's part of a group that has been designated. He is part of a group that's been designated.
So he's not a terrorist.
Of course he is. He's part of a group that our federal government has designated as a terrorist.
I mean, he's part of a group. He got caught up in it. We certainly can't put that on him, right? It's just like, I mean, he happened to be the guy in charge.